Hey, hello, welcome. How's it going? Today we're going to look at my seventh grade yearbook. This is the yearbook. This is the Pinewood Falcon yearbook from 1977 and 1978. Beautifully hand drawn cover by my best friend's girlfriend. Isn't that beautiful? She was a grade older than us. Uh, my best friend was so popular that in seventh grade he was dating eighth grade girls. You guys remember what level of alpha sigma energy it would have took in seventh grade to be dating eighth grade girls? Yeah. Another one of my friends was he was at the same level, not with the dating. He was such a great athlete that in sixth grade, he was playing on the eighth grade football team, every team. They stole him away from us. Really, I think it kind of started in seventh grade when they completely stole him away from us. He might end up in here. So, this is Pinewood Elementary School. This is our principal. He was amazing. He was really awesome. He was Mr. McCowan. This is in Pollock Pines, California, in the middle of the woods in the mountains. I wonder if Terry drew that little falcon right there too. Isn't that awesome? What is that, a little peregrine falcon or something? I don't know. Anyway, this is a really fun school. See, look, special people. Whew. Okay, a special thanks this year to Mr. McCowan for being such a nice principal and putting up with, in quotation mark, this year's eighth graders. We, the students of the yearbook committee, would like to thank Mr. Chappelle for making this yearbook possible. We give a special thanks to Kenny Jessen, the editor of this yearbook. See, there's Mr. Chappelle and Kenny in Mortal Kombat. In 1977 and 1978, both teachers and students would face each other in Mortal Kombat, and they would duel it out in the hallway. Look at this. We wish to thank the following people and businesses for their contributions. This is cool, isn't it? Wow, look at these places. Okay, first of all, what could the contributions have been? Look at this yearbook, you guys. I mean, are you looking at this? I mean, I'm really happy these people. What did they kick in? Couldn't have been that much, right? What was this yearbook? What did it cost? $5? Like, how did I pay for it? Anyway, here's all this great stuff, all these great businesses. Most of them are all completely gone now. It's cool. See, look at Quartz TV and Appliance. Look at the 13 Mile Post. So this whole town, really forgot to mention it. This town is a little mountain town on the way to Lake Tahoe, and its entire claim to fame is that it is a Pony Express. It was one of the main Pony Express stops. It was like a major Pony Express stop during the gold rush, and that's the whole thing. I mean, it's called Pony Express Village. They do all these. Every year every year they reopen it like it's a Pony Express office again, and they reenact the Pony. It's called Pony Express Days. I feel like it lasts an entire month. These are all the teachers, and there's some great ones here, and some of them are my all-time favorite teachers of all time, like this guy right here. This is Mr. Van Zandt. He's my favorite teacher of all time. He was my fifth grade teacher, and he was the best teacher I ever had. This is Mrs. Baker. She was the drama teacher at this school, and she was also the best drama teacher I ever had. And that's Mr. Ham. He's the football and all the other major sports coach. He was the best coach I ever had as well. Look, they're on a break in here. So this is the teacher's break room. I went in there a few times. I got, in trouble a few times, and other times like I ended up in there, working in the office and that sort of thing. They used to smoke in here and bullshit in here. I overheard some conversations. And one time I got busted. Well, I actually didn't get busted. So here was the whole situation. The situation is that out during recess, this one kid named Tad, his name was Tad, T-A-D, Tad, he had found or brought a Playboy to school, and it was in the bushes just outside of the chain link fence. All you had to, and this was like an open school campus. You just had to slip through the fence and through the gate, and you could go and look at the Playboy. Kids were going and looking at it during the lunch recess, like in rotations, like 2 or 3 kids at a time, and go look, and then they'd come back, or 1 or 2 kids, because they didn't want to make it obvious. You know what I mean? This is a very organized thing happening with these 6th graders. So I had already been out there. I was coming back in. I was over at the water fountain taking a drink. So these guys are sitting in the office looking out this window and they're watching what was happening out here in the field. So I'm coming in here. I'm getting a drink at the water fountain and somebody comes and grabs me, brings me in. And they like interrogated me and I just completely spilled the beans and told them everything. Look at that. I was a snitch right from the get-go. But what I didn't mention about this guy is that he gave swats. All right, so they threatened me. They threatened me with physical violence. This guy right here that I said was such a great principal, and he really was a great principal, he totally gave swats. Right behind his desk, he had a big, wooden paddle that he would hit you on the ass with. I never got swats. Maybe he never actually gave swats. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure he did hit some people. I don't know. He looks like he could hit some people. I'm just kidding. He was a freaking heart of gold. He was an awesome, awesome dude. His daughter is one of my classmates, and she was cool too. She's a straight A student, but very cool. Came to all of our parties and everything. Anyway, here's the superintendent and principal, Dr. Dawes. I remember him. Excuse me. Here's the lunch ladies. They were awesome. Don't they look at the classic 1970s lunch ladies. Holy moly, look at that. This might be our thumbnail, you guys. This might be our thumbnail right here. They got a bowling trophy. Look. What does that say? She won. This lady right here in the center, we can't even tell who she is. No, where is it? Okay, here we go. Florence Noel, Bobby Phillips, and Joyce Davenport. One of these women is the mother of one of my friend's ex-wives. I don't know which one. Probably the one on the right, because the other ladies are old. This is cool. Boy, clip that. Here's the bus drivers. These are the guys down here. Who's the tall guy? Mr. George. So this guy, Mr. George, the tall young guy, second from the left right there, he was like one of our regular bus drivers. But one day there was this big time snowstorm. This happened in 4th grade. Snow was everywhere, like you couldn't tell what anything was by the time you got out of school. He had switched routes with old Leadfoot, Mrs. Baker. Is that her name? She's in here, isn't she? Here she is. She's not Mrs. Baker. Maxine Harris. Mrs. Harris. We called her old Leadfoot. Anyway, I got on the wrong bus in 4th grade. And it was too late by the time I realized it. And we were already down the road going the opposite direction. So I had to go and tell Mr. George the situation. So he said, no worries. We'll finish the route and drop all the kids off. And then we'll go back to the school. I'll call your mom so she doesn't worry. And then I'll drive you home in my Jeep. And so then he had like this badass 4-wheel drive Jeep that he drove me home in. And I felt all super cool because I kind of got to hang out with Mr. George. And he hooked me up and drove me home. So this school look at all the pep that this school had. I don't know what other people's schools were like. Did your elementary school have full-on cheerleaders in uniforms with pom-poms? Maybe they all do. Anyway, all these girls. I knew all these girls, except for these baton twirlers. I don't know who these girls are. These are like young girls. This is our regular bus driver, Mrs. Harris. We called her old Leadfoot because she drove through those mountain roads like a bat out of hell. She was super cool though. But she took no shit. She was kind of very much similar to that bus driver from The Simpsons, the one with the birds in her hair. She was a lot like that. She took no shit from nobody. She would pull the bus right over. And she would handle business. But she drove very fast. Also very fast in the dark, like when we would drive back from like field trips or whatever they would call them. We used to have these field trips to the skating rink. So all the kids, like after school in the evening, she would drive us all to go skating. We would all skate together. Here's the 4th graders. Look at what 4th graders used to look like. Oh, is that Evan Allen? I think that's Evan right there on the second from the left. One of my friend's younger brothers. And when you become an adult, 3 and 4 year age difference, all of a sudden you forget that they were little kids, that they were like 4th graders. Look at all these little kids. So this is what 4th graders looked like in 19 1977. That kid's a Boy Scout. I don't know who any of these kids are, but I might have bullied some of them. Oh, is that Grady? Yeah. This kid right here. Yeah, so I definitely bullied this kid. I feel bad about it, but karma came back to me throughout my life. I didn't, physically hurt that kid or anything, but I did menace him and steal his candy. This is Mrs. Freeman. I really liked her. Look, she left school at semester break to have her son Christopher. She was really cool. She worked with the littler kids, I believe, but she also worked in the portables and she did other stuff. She was a cool lady. I just really liked her. She was like a young and up and coming, whatever. She was cool. Anyway, this is Mrs. Milburn on the right there. Well, I guess Miss Milburn. I guess that makes sense. So she wasn't married. So Miss Milburn was a teacher. She was never my teacher. She was like another 4th grade or 5th grade teacher that I never had. But she lived in our neighborhood. And she gave at Halloween, she would give out divinity. She wouldn't give out candy. She was one of those people that would give out popcorn balls and homemade divinity wrapped in saran wrap. What's going on here? Oh, look. Isn't that cool? That is what is that? An egret? Anyway, this has got to be Mr. Van Zant's class. Teachers Miss Irvin and Mr. Van Zant. So my favorite teacher is this guy that has all the taxidermy in his room. His name was Mr. Van Zant, and he was an ex-Marine that had tattoos. And the first day of 5th grade, he gave us all numbers and assigned desks with little 8 by 10 cards, or not 8 by, what were those small, the index cards, with index cards with, you had to, all your papers had to have your number on them in the upper right hand corner with your last name first, first name, middle initial. And he started teaching us like the military stuff, and I really liked that. And also taxidermy and natural history, identification of animals and birds and plants. All right, here's my grade. So I guess now is where the stories start. So over on the left here is Debbie. I knew her pretty well because she lived in my neighborhood. Her parents belonged to the same club that my mother belonged to, and there was like a country club with a lodge and a swimming pool and tennis courts, and everybody hung out there, and she was one of those people. She was one of my best friend's girlfriend for years and years. This is on the bottom here on the left. That's Mary. She was this girl that was kind of cute that I liked, but she had a crush on me, but I never reciprocated that because I had other girls that I was going out with at the time. That's my friend Tad right there. He is the kid that brought the Playboy. That's Troy. He became an Army Ranger. Just kids that we used to pick on. These are all kids that I made fun of, except for this. This is Mike Cannon. Kind of one of my friends, but also not really. I mean, he came to our parties and stuff like that. I don't know that girl on the left. This is Julie. I dated her, and then also my friend Garth dated her. This is Donna. My friend Garth dated her. I don't know these girls' names. I don't remember their names. That's Kurt right there. A friend of mine. This is me right here with these glasses and that crazy hair. Oh, I got to readjust. I feel like this thing is shaking. Anyway, this is one of the most unflattering photographs of me, probably, but it definitely captures the year. This is 1977. That is a Charlie's Angels Kate Jackson t-shirt that I'm wearing. It's my friend Dan. He was one of my in my group of friends. There's my friend Chris, also in my group of friends. Bert, also in my group of friends. That's Garth, my best friend all through school. That's Bob, also in our group of friends. This is Ronnie, a kid that I used to pick on. This is David, a kid that periphery group of friends, kind of our friends. This is Stacy, a girl that I used to hang out with, that we used to cap on other kids and make fun of kids and do messed up things. I don't remember this kid's name. This is Lynn. This is an unattainable girl. This is a girl that I always kind of liked, but it just, you know that nothing is ever going to become of this ever and ever. She was a straight A student, came from this really cool, really nice family, and they had a really nice ranch and a bunch of horses and a beautiful house. And one year they had this really cool, awesome themed Halloween party where they had the barn set up like a spook show. I walked through and they had all the stereotypical stuff where you had to be blindfolded and you put your hand in a bowl of cold spaghetti and that type of stuff. It was so awesome. It was really fun. And she was always in those Pony Express days, things I was telling you about, and she was always riding horses. And in the summertime, you would see her, she would be riding around. A lot of these people in the summertime, when school is out, they're riding their horses around town. I'm not kidding. This is my friend Roy. Famously, one Halloween night, coming back from Mrs. Milburn's house, met up with him and another friend of mine. Garth and I were throwing eggs and running around in kiss makeup. And this guy and another friend of mine, Bob, show up, and they said, "Did you go by Mrs. Milburn's house?" And he said, "Yeah, we did." And he goes, "Fucking divinity!" And he threw it up in the air, and then he kicked it he punted it like a football player. And the divinity was actually kind of good, but he just did it for comedy relief. This little girl here on the left, I remember her. She hung out with us. This girl right here is Mandy. This is one of my girlfriends, like, for a long, long time. It's Mike, a friend of ours. This is Christina. This is a girl that Garth dated for a while. There's Joni. There's Mike. This guy Mike Milligan right here. This guy Mike. We used to hang out, and one time he came over and he spent the night at my house, like in maybe 4th or 5th grade. And I used to like to read comic books, of course. And so I remember he couldn't read comics. Like, my thing was reading comics before I went to bed, like reading, And so I was like, "Hey, let's read some comics." It's like 9 o'clock at night or something. He's like, "I can't read comics before bed." And I was like, "Well, why?" And he goes, "Because it'll give me bad dreams." And I was like, "Oh shit, all right." This is two of my best friends right here. This is Jerry and Larry. They're fraternal twins. I played football with these guys. They're really good friends of mine. When they were little, Jerry had to give Larry one of his kidneys. And then Larry, the one who received the kidney, ended up being bigger and healthier than the one who gave the kidney. This is my friend Chris right here. This is the kid who, like, in 6th grade was like 6 feet tall and could run faster than anyone. And Garth would just throw touchdown after touchdown after touchdown to this guy. And so the coach kept noticing that and realized that he needed to be playing on the varsity team. So he played varsity even when he was a freshman. He played on, pretty sure that he played on, maybe he had to have. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that he either played like at junior or senior level when he was a freshman, because he did, in 6th grade, he was playing on the 8th grade team. This kid right here, this kid's name is Mark, and I had multiple fights with this kid. This kid's name is Bill. He's really cool. He had some form of dwarfism, and he lived right down the street from me. I remember one time when I was little, at the very beginning, when I first started going to this school and I first met him, I wanted to get to know this kid and hang out with him because he lived just right down the street, right? But even though these are weird mountain streets without sidewalks or street lamps, and there's like everything but your backyards and front yards is just with the woods. It's It's like living in the mountains, right? So everybody jumps through and cuts through trails, and we're like, everybody's running around like they're Tarzan. Well, I went over to his house and asked if he could hang out and play. And his mom said no, that he couldn't come out and play. And I felt bad about it, but then I realized, I mean, there's no way she could let him come out and frickin' run around with us and throwing dirt clods and jumping through the woods and shit. Also, he wasn't interested in the same stuff that I was interested in. I mean, I knew him at school and everything, and he was a real, like not interested in toys and little kid stuff, and I was an action figure kid and make believe type of kid, and making like caverns in the snow. And this kid was like, I don't know, like learning about tools or like tying knots, or I don't know what he was like. I don't know, he wasn't like playing games. Anyway, this is Teresa, another friend of mine. She was cute, good girl, real funny, and we also used to cut up on other kids. This kid right here, his name is Chris. This is a big kid. He was a lineman on our football team. And one time, I'm in the backfield, and he's like playing like linebacker or defensive end, and he comes flying in trying to blindside my quarterback, and I'm the halfback, and everything happened perfectly. Like if you've ever played football and like your entire childhood of playing football, you might remember those moments where everything happened exactly perfect. So this guy comes flying in, and he completely missed me and didn't see me, and the timing was perfect. So I managed to hit him with a like what you would call a blindside block, where I'm to his left in the backfield and he's driving in diagonally from the defensive end position towards the quarterback. And just as he's committing and going, I step in. The timing's perfectly, and I blast him. Still, it's not a chop block or not not a block in the back. I catch him at the angle, and his head is turned. He doesn't see me, and I completely flatten him out, and he pancakes. And this is a kid who outweighs me by like 50 pounds. And he pancaked hard, right? And a couple people even laughed, and it was a big play. Like Garth got the pass away. So then the next play after that, he's all angry, and he's just coming directly at me. And so I just took him directly straight on, and he just knocked me on my ass. But it was not as bad as what I had laid out to him. So it was like just a crazy moment. This kid's name is Vernon. He was a kid that also played on our defense and on the line. He's a big kid. And one time, so he used to mooch food. This is the kind of bully that I was. I'm going to tell you guys right now. These are two kids that I bullied right here. Vernon and this other kid, Lonnie. I was really bad to this kid, Lonnie, and Garth too. This is a horrible video. I didn't know that this was going to turn out this way, and we're at 23 minutes, but this has to happen. I have to reveal to you guys, and to anybody and to myself, we're making videos about this stuff, and this is history. This is my life history. And it might be entertaining to people. I don't know. Anywhere we're doing it. The kid on the left right there, Vernon, he used to mooch food in the cafeteria at lunch, right? And he was just doing it because he was hungry. It's not like he just wanted to see if you had extra food he's just hungry, right? That's all. It's not like there's anything bad about asking people if they're going to eat that roll, that extra roll, right? So he's coming through, and I already knew that he was going to do that he's planning on, he does it all the time. So I take a roll, like a lunch roll, and I open it up, like I hollow it out. I hollow out a lunch roll, and I put spinach inside of the lunch roll, and then I plug it back up perfectly with like the end of the roll. So it's completely disguised. It looks like a lunch roll, but on the entire inside is going to be cold spinach. So Vernon comes through, and I give him that roll. He bites into it, and he cries. He freaks out, and it makes him all upset, and people laugh because the people at the table saw me doing this. And he's embarrassed, and it was a horrible, horrible gag. He cried, and the lady, the whatever you call her, the lady with the whistle, she took him to the office, and then he was out of there for about 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later they come in asking for me. So I went to the office. I got in trouble. I used to get in trouble for beating up this kid right here. No reason, just because he was kind of goofy. It was horrible. So what was happening here? The reason why I was this way is my father. The reason why I was this way is that I was who I am and who I was, and I was, and I'll fully admit that I was not the nicest of kid, but I came from an environment of stark realism where my father had been killed tragically in a helicopter crash when I was 4 years old, and my mother didn't absolutely handle it all that well. My siblings were not all that supportive, so I was a bit of a renegade. That's how I would put it. This girl's name is Julie. I always liked her. This is another Julie. I always liked her too. My friend Garth ended up living in their house after they moved out or whatever. So it was kind of trippy thinking that was the house that she had lived in when we were kids. Oh, just other girls and kids that I know. This kid's name is Fred right here with the glasses. Yeah. So I picked on him regularly. We picked on him. One time that I can remember, I was biting my fingernails in class, and I bit a fingernail, and I was spitting them out of my mouth, like spitting them like that. And I was spitting them, and they were sticking in the back of his hair because his mom put pomade in his hair every morning, and his hair was greased back. And the girls were really laughing at that. They thought that was funny, and I got in trouble. I got caught, got in trouble for that. This is Melissa right here. She used to live next door to my friend Garth. I got in trouble also for making fun of her at school. And then one time we got in big trouble. She lived directly next door to Garth. So these girls would hang out, and these were all big A-frame mountain homes. These girls would hang out after school on her front deck, and then we would hang out after school on Garth's front deck. And it was two households of latchkey kids. So there would be 3 7th grade girls next door, and me and Garth next door in the other house. So we would get into trouble, right? So one day we're feuding with the girls, but it's also at the same time, it's not really feuding, it's flirting, right? So these girls, this girl Melissa, she's wearing those Ditto pants. Remember those Ditto pants that girls used to wear? Anyway, Garth had this Daisy repeater BB gun that had a scope on it, and he shot her directly on the ass with a BB from a long, far away, man. He had to increase the trajectory and adjust for the wind, but it was a good 50 yards from our deck to their deck, I would say, at least 50 yards. And he hit her directly on the ass cheek, and it made her cry and go crazy, and we got in big trouble. So, more people that I made fun of. Some cool people. There's that kid on the left that I told you about that I laid out with the blind side block, and then he laid me out. That's Bobby in the center, and that's Garth on the far right. This is the 8th grade class. These are kids that were a year older than us, but because we were so cool, we used to hang out with these kids too and go to their parties, and some of them would come to our parties. Garth's older sister was 2 years older than us, and she was very popular, so her lineage carried weight. So some of these kids, we knew them and they knew us through certain people. This girl right down here, her name is Kara. She lived right up the trail from me, like through the woods, and she would walk every morning to the same bus stop that I went on, that I took the bus on, and she would cut through. And so the trail that went through the back of our house, she would walk by there on her way, to school in the morning. She was hot. I thought she was really hot when I was in 7th grade, and she was in 8th grade. So this one morning, remember what my hair looked like, how ridiculous my hair was? So here's what every morning, here's how I would do my hair. My mom I would hang my head into the kitchen sink, and my mom would squirt water all over that ridiculous hair thing that I had. And then I would comb it and try and keep it all like see how Chuck's hair is right here? I would try and make it look like that, but my hair was just too ridiculous, right? It couldn't do that. It was too curly and wild. So instead, it would actually fit in with today's style. Anyway, so one morning she's walking down the trail, and just as I'm looking up from the sink, the timing is terrible. Just like the story of playing football, this time it was the opposite. So she looks, just as she's looking, she's able to look from that spot down the trail directly into that kitchen window in that house, and she can see me halfway bent over, pulling my head up, and our eyes meet, and she sees my mother with her hands in my hair with that hose thing squirting water on my head from behind me like I'm some sort of I don't know what. It was an emasculating experience. And yeah, so I was like, oh, God, I can't believe she saw that. Terrible, 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 terrible. Candid photos. We're at 31 minutes. This is a ridiculously long video, but we got to power through. We got to do this because some of these photos are great. These are a bunch of popular girls. These are 8th grade girls. This girl is second from the right is Terry. That's the girl that did the cover art of this. She dated my friend Garth. I liked all of these girls and flirted with all of them. Kind of had a thing. But you know, I was going out with the girls in my grade. But there's Kara again. But I really liked these girls and went to their parties and flirted with them and might have made out with a couple of them. I don't always remember everything though. That's for sure. So yeah, my best friend and I both came from single parent households, so we were exposed to things at an earlier age than some of these other kids, if that makes sense to you. Like we did stupid stuff. Do you guys know what Spanish fly is? Garth got authentic Spanish fly from Tijuana, and we tried to use it on some of these girls. Look at this. The best of Friday Night Fever. So this would have been like the Friday night disco dances that used to happen, and we were really into this. I took disco dance lessons. So did Garth. We both took disco dance lessons at Karen Adele Dance Studio. Not kidding. We were the first boys to do that, but because we were popular, it became a thing. So then Karen Adele ended up coming to school to recruit kids for her disco dance classes. And we all learned how to do the hustle, the whole thing. See, look. This is, this is a real thing. They were actual dance contests. So, yeah. Look. Garth got 3rd place. So look at what happened. The 8th graders, so the 8th grade, I don't know what Terry and Dave got. Look at how